I came into the world to a father who was a military officer and a businessman, a military police person and a businessman, and therefore had a job that afforded us a lifestyle where I could go to school 3 times a day, 6 days a week with my 3 brothers and 3 sisters. And I came to the world to 3 brothers who were so cool, or thought they were, wearing their bell-bottom pants and listening to Elvis Presley music, trying desperately to grow Elvis sideburns. And to 3 sisters who I played with so loud and often that my father at times threatened to replace us with monkeys. Which, for those of you who've been to Cambodia, we have many, many, many monkeys. And so life was charmed. Life was where I spent my days with my family and going to school, even though I knew something was amiss. Because many times my father would keep us from school. And many times my parents would whisper amongst themselves about in explosions that rocked or destroyed a market or in school, or having to have our families be careful about where we moved and where we went, or the influx of hundreds of thousands of IDP, internally displaced people, coming in from the countryside, coming into the city to live. We knew something was amiss, but my parents kept us shelter from it, so I didn't know about the war. And it was a shock to me when the soldiers arrived with their guns and their grenades in their black shirts and pants and wearing big smiles, screaming into the bullhorn that the war was over. And I didn't know what the war was. And for the next 3 years, 8 months, and 21 days, I would learn what the war was. As you so, I know, graciously, as you so shared already, Tally, with people, that Cambodia became stranger than fiction. Cambodia became a country that was a prison, albeit without walls, and all its 7 million citizens were prisoners in this country, where one by one, day by day, moment by moment, our rights would be taken up from us. The soldiers came into the city and started pulling out their bullhorns and started screaming for us to move out of our homes, to evacuate the cities, all cities, because the Americans were coming in with their B-52 metal killing birds, they said, and then they would bomb us, and if we didn't leave, we would all be killed. Phnom Penh was populated by 2 million people. We were evacuated in 72 hours. We didn't know where we would go. We didn't know which directions to take, but the soldiers were there with their guns, emptying the hospitals and the schools and the houses. And if you refused to leave, they went in there and hurt you. And many people died from that evacuation. And from there, we would go to villages, to live in villages that were more akin to labor camps, where every day consisted of only Mondays, and every Monday was a work day. And it didn't matter if you were 6 or 60. It didn't matter if you were a musician or a dancer or a singer. It only mattered if you could work the land and grow the food to support a war you didn't know about, you didn't want, to dig trenches, to build dams, to support a revolution. You had no say, you had no power, you had no right, you had no voice, and you could not protest. Because to speak up, to speak out was a danger, was viewed as a treasonous act. To gather 3 people in one location at once was viewed as a crime punishable by imprisonment or possibly even death. And so little by little, day by day, we saw our rights taken away. We moved from one village to another where soldiers gather us around. And in that first moment, I remember as a child, the soldiers took our clothes from our backpacks, dumped them into the village squares, and flick a match and lit them all on fire. And for the next 4 years or so, we would wear black shirts and black pants every single day. We were told what to say, how to wear our hair, what to call our parents, so that they were no longer our individual, endear, loving persons. They were now just comrades. We were told when to eat, where to sleep, when to travel. We lived in fear. I knew from then on, at 5 years old, that to survive, I had to become dumb, deaf, mute, blind, invisible, just so I could have the privilege of taking that next breath, just so I could live. Because if I messed up, if I wasn't paying attention, if I somehow outed myself as a person who came from a family or from the city who were targeted because of my biracial parentage, my mother being Chinese, my father being Cambodian, of someone who actually went to school, of somebody who spoke Chinese and Cambodian and was studying French. If I somehow let the soldiers knew my background and didn't hide myself enough, it wasn't my life only that I would endanger, but the lives of my parents and sisters and brothers and loved ones. And so I hid myself so completely, so silent, that for that 3 years, 8 months, and 21 days, I do not remember the sound of laughter of my own or another person. I do not remember a moment of play. I do not remember moments of peace or hope, but I remember many moments of faith and prayers, because the human spirit is strong, and no matter how you hide, no matter how you silence yourself, your heart still beats. And that, as long as it was beating, I knew that there was space in there for me to hold on to something else,